GKR Heavy Hitters is a miniatures skirmish game set in a far-flung, post-apocalyptic and somewhat absurd future, in which corporations sponsor these massive, giant killer robots to attack each other on live TV for entertainment. It's an entirely original new IP from a company called Weta Workshop, who you may be more familiar with for their special effects and prop work on some major Hollywood movies like Avatar and Lord of the Rings or District 9. As you might expect from a company that specializes in making movie props and animating enormous robots, the giant killer robots you find in GKR Heavy Hitters are absolutely gorgeous and are pre-painted, some up to around 14 centimeters high. In addition, each faction also has a host of support miniatures. These are unpainted, however they have had a dark wash applied to them. The game is played on a hex-based map for 1 to 4 players and takes approximately 1 to 2 hours for a full game. So in the past, I've included a how to play rules overview section in the video just to give you an idea of how it plays. Today I've decided to separate that off entirely to a more in-depth how to play rules video, and instead in this video, in this review, I'll go straight into my thoughts on the game. So I should note that I've only played GKR Heavy Hitters at 2-player and solo. I haven't had a chance to play at 3 or 4 players yet. However, apart from the gotcha aspect of being able to team up with someone else against a particular player, I don't think the dynamics at 3 and 4 will change that much. So obviously the first thing anyone is going to notice about this game is the absolutely gorgeous components. Some people really couldn't care less about component quality and are happy to play on scribbled pieces of paper. I'm not one of those people, and I very much appreciate the detail and the paint jobs that have gone onto these fantastic looking mechs. It's a real crowd pleaser, and if that's the thing that drew you into this review thinking, oh wow, those do look cool, then I think that's absolutely fine too. There's no shame in that. It does, however, make the game absolutely bloody expensive. Admittedly, it's a massive box, and the mechs inside are themselves massive. But at $125 or £125, it really is on the top shelf of premium games. And that's not even mentioning the $100 Urban Wastelands expansion, or the $100 Sweet and Salty Factions expansion, or any of those sweet Kickstarter exclusives that you missed and may want to eventually get. This is an expensive game, no doubt about it. On the other hand, compared to other miniature skirmish games like Infinity, for instance, which has a starter box of $100, this doesn't actually seem that expensive. It's just that GKR Heavy Hitters feels expensive in comparison to what you'd normally play for a board game. If anything, compared to some miniature skirmish games, GKR Heavy Hitters is actually really good value for money. Inside the box, you're getting 4 different factions with, as I said, 4 massive, incredibly well-painted, giant killer robots, as well as 4 entirely unique faction decks of attack cards. Other systems would probably be happy to package up the mech and the support units and the cards for about $50 each. But it's not just the robots that have incredibly high production value in this game. It's the cards, it's the rest of the components, it's everything. All of the artwork is fantastic quality, very thematic and very consistent. And it's that sort of thing that really helps to draw you into the game world. Now, although strictly speaking, this is a miniatures skirmish game, it's not nearly as in-depth as something like Infinity or any of the other skirmish games out there, really. It is very lightweight. The action is driven almost entirely by the cards that you draw from your faction deck and some basic movement that you'll be doing on the board. And you will never need to refer to a 400-page rulebook to check on the nuances of a particular situation. So in that respect, it's really very accessible. You might even go so far as to call it a gateway skirmish game. And when I was playing, I really felt like we had pretty much mastered the rules after a single game. The only thing we had to double check on was whether you were in cover in a particular situation where there's a building in between you. But that was easy to look up and easily remembered once you'd figured it out. So one aspect that I really like is the asymmetry of pilot abilities and the faction cards that you draw. Each faction has their own unique characteristics, however they're all pretty balanced at the core. There is a strong sort of rock, paper, scissors feel to a lot of it, in that you can build your faction deck to be, say, a load of long-range missile attacks, a bunch of close-range attacks, or some sort of balance in between. And then you can also throw in reaction cards to defend better against long-range attacks, or short-range attacks, or a bit of both. I don't think the game would be nearly as fun if everyone started with the exact same deck of cards, and the only differing factor was the colour. On the other hand, what's very much not balanced are these sponsor cards. Now, these add some seriously strong chance-based mechanics into the game, and it's pretty easy to get them. They can completely ruin an entirely well-planned out turn by just suddenly sucking up most of your energy, or saying you can only fire one gun. Now, one of these cards alone isn't enough to turn the tide of the game, but if you have a good combo, a good streak of cards that you've picked up, then you can completely ruin someone's turn. As a counter-argument to that, though, the mechanism through which you get them, which is to tag these buildings, is probably my favourite part of the game, I'd say. Painting the map in your colour is a very fun tactical element of the game. It's area control, really, but it's very much tied to the movement of how you go around the map. So it's not just a case of, oh, I've got a unit here, therefore I control this hex. It's very much more tactical than that. So actually, I think it's only right that that mechanic gets rewarded heavily with some of the strongest cards in the game. Now, in all of the two-player games that I've played, it's always been the tagging and demolishing of buildings that has won or lost the match, rather than outright destruction of my opponent. And it's surprisingly fun to figure out how to optimize your tagging each turn, how you can scoot over to the opponent's area, maybe over-tag one of theirs in order to prevent them demolishing their final building and winning the match. But things can change at a moment's notice, and in one game I set myself up to tag 3 different buildings with all 3 support units and my heavy hitter, demolished them all, and then suddenly won the match. And if you're the sort of player who just wants to go down the path of wanton destruction and attacks, you'll find yourself losing very quickly. Not only are they going to be building quickly towards one of the objectives to win, they're also getting those sponsor cards in the meantime, which make them a lot more powerful. So some reviews, I think, have criticised GKR Heavy Hitters as being too lightweight of a skirmish game, and I think that's pretty unfair. Yes, it's definitely accessible. There's not a mountain of thick rulebooks that you need to read through to learn how to play. It's just this, and it's pretty easy to understand. There's a lot of pictures in here. But I do think there's a surprising amount of depth to the game hidden beneath the surface. For me, it's the sort of game that I keep coming back to and keep wanting to experiment with a different tactic. Perhaps you want to try one match where you're hiding behind buildings, zipping around, tagging things, and basically just ignoring your opponent. Or perhaps you want to run up to the side, get in there fast, flank him, do some serious damage, maybe run back again. Maybe you want to get out all of your support units as soon as possible and just tag all the things so you have a full hand of sponsor cards to choose from. Yes, the rules are light, but I do think there's a good bit of depth there, and I really love the game. It doesn't just look great, it plays great, it's thematic, and it's fun. Finally though, let's have a quick chat about solo mode, because for you as a player in solo mode, the rules you play by are pretty much identical to what you would play against a human opponent. The only difference is there'll be some less sponsorship cards that you can choose from. They're not used in solo mode. Otherwise, everything else for you is exactly the same. You still have to manage your hand, pick the weapons, refuel your hand with faction cards, that sort of thing. It's all identical. However, for your AI opponent, the game plays entirely differently. They don't have any energy to manage, they don't tag buildings, and the only cards they'll be drawing from are all of the weapon cards they have. There are no reaction, no special cards. It's purely weapon cards. In addition to that, there's this template which tells you all about how they're going to move around the board. And it's this where I have most of my problems. So firstly, I want to say that playing in solo is absolutely brutally difficult. I haven't managed to win a game yet. And the reason for that is that every single turn your opponent is going to draw 2 or 3 weapons cards, as well as possibly all of their support units. And it's just an endless, relentless wave of attacks. There's no deep thought on their part. There's no AI table to consult other than for movement. They're never going to run away from you or try and do any tagging. They're just going to attack and then attack and then attack. And that makes the game really, really difficult. But not only in solo mode is your opponent just very hard to play against, they're very hard to move around and to play themselves, because everything they do, you'll need to consult this annoying template chart. So for every single unit that your opponent has out, you're going to be rolling a dice and then consulting this chart. Now, rather than just determining a sort of general movement rule like move closer to your opponent, hide behind a building, the sort of thing that you might get in Blackstone Fortress, it's all very precisely determined. So for your heavy hitter, you need to first determine which of these templates they're going to follow. Then you need to figure out which of these letters around the unit is available to move into, and then you need to count up your letters, A, B, C, D, oh, which one's available, and then go to that one. For the support units, it's even more complicated because the templates refer to the position of the heavy hitter rather than the support unit. And the templates, of course, also follow the current orientation of the robot. So you're going to be having this on top, constantly turning it around, figuring out, it's really complicated to do, and frankly, it's not fun. I would have really liked to see the opponent play the tagging aspect of the game too, given that that's one of my favorite parts of the game. Playing against an opponent that just doesn't take part in that at all just doesn't feel that fun. In some games, solo mode is more like a puzzle that you're trying to solve. In some, they'll use AI lookup tables to try and emulate a human a lot better than in this game where it's just a brutal onslaught. The fun in GKR for me really comes from having a live opponent who will participate in that tagging mechanism, or throw a spanner in your works and completely mess up your turn. I suppose it's fine for learning how to play. After all, your turn is pretty much identical as it would be in a normal game. However, I don't think I'll be playing solo mode again. Anyway, that's it for my thoughts on GKR Heavy Hitters. I will say I think this is one of my top 10 all-time favorite games. If you're a fan of big mech robots blowing each other up on abandoned cityscapes, I think you will absolutely love GKR Heavy Hitters. If you enjoyed this review, please hit thumbs up. I would really appreciate that because it tells YouTube that this video should be ranked a little bit higher. And if you have any comments, feedback, suggestions, questions of any kind, please ask me down in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you. Do please consider subscribing for more board game reviews. I would really appreciate that too. And each video takes me a pretty long time to record and edit, and it's only done as a hobby, so I promise that unlike some channels, I won't be spamming you with 3 videos a day. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.